I just realized that this is going to be the shortest Mass that I've celebrated in 2 weeks. And you might say, well, Bishop, how is this going to be so short? If you've had Mass every day, yes. I've had Mass every day for the last 2 weeks, and the shortest Mass was 2 hours long. The longest Mass was 4.5 hours long. Yeah, I preach long. No. The reason is I just got back from Nigeria. I was just in Africa the last 2 weeks. And for some reason, I don't even have jet lag. I don't know why. But in any case, it was a great experience. And being here with you reminds me of 3 of the Masses that I celebrated were with high school students, about 700 or 800 at each of the 3 Masses that I had. And another Mass, the one that was 4.5 hours long, was an ordination. I had 2 ordination Masses, so I ordained 26 new priests. And yeah. And then I had a Mass where I confirmed 99 young people. And then I had a regular parish Mass, and the shortest was the regular parish Mass. That was only 2 hours. Now, you might say, well, why are the Masses in Nigeria so long? They love to sing. And you know, I said to the 3 high school Masses, all these high school kids are singing. Like when I have high school Masses, I don't know what it is about high school. Where are high school? Most of you, okay. Now, what is it about high school students that, not you guys, maybe before you came to Damascus, but my experience as a bishop is high school kids don't like to sing at Mass, and it just drives me crazy. Like, then they get to college and they start singing again. They sing in grade school, they stop in high school, and then they start singing again in college. But in any case, all these high school kids in Nigeria are singing these beautiful, and all kinds of instruments, and it was beautiful. So they're so into the Mass. They had this amazing love for Jesus, and I was so uplifted. So I thought, wow, this is coming to Damascus. I feel like I'm back in Nigeria because you're singing, and that's wonderful. Another reason that it's kind of long is the offertory procession. Now, Deacon Peter Claver is from Uganda, so I think there's some similarities, right? Well, in any case, the offertory procession was like 45 minutes. Now, and they're lively music, and they're kind of swinging, you know, and they bring up in the offertory, like everyone brings something up, because that's how they support their priests. So paper towel, anything you would need. And so they'd be handing me, as I'm receiving all these gifts, just practical things to support their priests, because they don't get salaries like our priests get here. So the people support their priests by bringing them whatever, you know, all kinds of food and everything. And then one guy handed me a live chicken. And it started, I was like, take this. I don't know, he's going to bite me or something, you know. But it was really very beautiful because the church is so vibrant in Africa and in Nigeria. Nigeria is I could give you the history of Nigeria, but it's a very poor country. It's the biggest country in Africa. And we have some priests from my diocese from Nigeria, so I have a relationship with them there. And the bishop, who was my host, is a friend of mine. He could only accept 10 new seminarians this year because not really having the money to educate them, the formation. You know about how many applicants he had to the seminary? Over 100. But he could only accept 10. So here in the United States, I mean, imagine if I had 100, I mean, I would love that. So, you know, and many, many young women entering religious life as well. So it's good for us as American Catholics to think about the universal church. You know, like here you are, you know, you've been reinvigorated in your faith. And we live in a culture, though, very different than Africa, where we don't see necessarily this kind of liveliness and vibrancy and faith, but you've experienced that this week. And there are other people in other countries of the world that experience it. And it's beautiful. So for me, it was hot. Nigeria's a little dangerous. There's terrorism there, and I was in a difficult situation, but I think prayers of people kept me safe. But I just wanted to share that with you. And what is it that makes the church vibrant? It's love for Christ. That's what it's all about. Love for Jesus that we experience in our hearts. But it's because we experience his love for us. And when we know the love of Christ, it energizes us. The love which is manifest right there in the crucifix. You know, I encourage you every day, if you don't have a crucifix in your bedroom, be sure to get one. Like one that's kind of realistic, like that, where you can just pray and realize how much he loves you, that he died for you. I think of St. Paul. He wrote those beautiful words in his letter to the Galatians, "The Son of God loved me and gave himself for me." Do you know that sentence from St. Paul to the Galatians? The Son of God loved me and gave himself for me. Well, when he got that conviction, he experienced that inside. That's why he became such a great missionary. I mean, think of all that St. Paul did. He brought the gospel all through that Mediterranean region. I mean, and then in the reading we just heard from his second letter to the Corinthians, what did he say? The love of Christ impels me. In Latin, it's caritas Christi urget nos. The love of Christ impels us. So it's not something, when we have that conviction of the Lord's love for us, it impels us to spread that love. It impels us to love others, to serve him. And even in the midst of pain and suffering, to bear witness to him. It gives us the courage that we need. And that's why I'm so happy that you're, like during this week, that you've had the experience of learning how to pray with Scripture. Lectio Divina. I mean, doing that every day changes our life. We start to think like Christ when we meditate on his word. When we listen to his teachings and how he and what he did, his deeds, his acts of mercy, his miracles, all of that. The more we know him more, and then we experience more and more his love for us. And then how does that love remain with us? Well, Jesus wanted us to remain in his love. He said at the Last Supper, "Remain in my love," he said to the disciples. Well, that's why he gave us this amazing gift of the Holy Eucharist. He remains with us on earth under the appearances of bread and wine. And you've experienced the power of the Eucharist. What is the Holy Eucharist? It's the sacrament of Christ's love. His love to the end, to the point of suffering and dying for us on the cross. The woman whose feast we celebrate today. By the way, St. Mary Magdalene, this was always a memorial on the liturgical calendar. So it was a regular celebration of a saint. But some years ago, Pope Francis said, this needs to be more than a memorial. This needs to go higher. So Pope Francis made this day of Mary Magdalene a feast. That's why we sang the Gloria. We always sing the Gloria, not normally at daily masses, but on feasts we do. So Pope Francis made St. Mary Magdalene a feast because she is a pretty amazing woman. I mean, she's someone who experienced the love of Christ in a very deep and personal way. It changed her life. She was tormented by, possessed by 7 demons. Her life was a mess. Did any of you see that first episode of The Chosen? Yeah, so that's a great, you see how Mary Magdalene was. But then, when she encountered Jesus, I mean, it changed her life. And I think about it, you know, at the end, when Jesus was arrested and crucified, think about who stayed there at the foot of the cross. I mean, it was Mary, the mother of Jesus, the Blessed Virgin Mary, who was a woman who loved her son totally. St. John, by the way, my confirmation name, I have a lot of devotion to St. John the Apostle. Like, he was the beloved disciple. He was Jesus' best friend. That's why I chose him as a confirmation name. He was there. So it was, and then Mary Magdalene was there. Like the three people who loved Jesus with all their hearts. I'm not saying Peter and the other apostles didn't love Jesus, but they didn't have that same depth of love, or they would have been there too at the foot of the cross, right? But they were there. And then, what a grace, the first one to receive or to experience, as far as we know, we don't know. Maybe after the resurrection, Jesus appeared to his mother. Maybe. I think he probably did. But we don't have that in the scriptures, so we can't say for sure. But so the one that we know that he appeared to first was Mary Magdalene. But think about how much she loved him. She got up in that morning, Easter Sunday morning, and went to the tomb while it was still dark because her love for Jesus was still there. She wasn't expecting the resurrection. But she loved him so much that even though he was dead, she wanted to go and be there at the tomb and anoint his body. And she found the tomb empty. We know that she really didn't think it was a resurrection, or she wouldn't have said to the angels and then to the apostles, they've taken his body from the tomb and we don't know where they've laid it. So she was confused. But then then she didn't recognize it was Jesus. She thought he was the gardener. Until what? Until he said her name. All he said was Mary. And then she knew. And then she responded, Rabbi, Rabboni. That's how she addressed him. And because that's how, when he had expelled the demons from her, what did he say? Mary. And so she knew it was him, and then she wanted to touch him, to cling to him. And you might think, well, why did Jesus say, don't cling to me, don't hold on to me? Because he's now a glorified Christ. She couldn't relate to him in the same way. He wasn't just the regular earthly physical body that he had. Now it's a glorified body. So she would have to relate to him in a new way because he was ascending to the Father. And then he gave her, the risen Jesus gave her this mission to then go back to the apostles and tell them, to announce to them his resurrection. And because of that, St. Thomas Aquinas called Mary Magdalene the Apostola Apostolorum. That's Latin. The apostle of the apostles. Because an apostle is one who is sent. Well, Mary Magdalene was sent by Jesus, an apostle, to the apostles to tell them that he had risen from the dead. So she had that privilege. He gave this woman, because she had such love for him, this passionate love for Jesus, that he gave her the great privilege of announcing the amazing mystery of his resurrection. The lesson for us, I think, is clear. We're all called to announce the resurrection, that Jesus is alive. You've experienced that this week, that Jesus is alive. But you don't keep that news to yourself. I mean, Mary Magdalene didn't keep it to herself. She went and told the apostles. St. Paul didn't keep it to himself. He experienced Jesus' love. You know, the Son of God loved me and gave himself for me. He went out to proclaim. And we need young evangelizers. We need young witnesses to the risen Christ, messengers of joy. And that is, yes, by talking and spreading the good news, but by your actions, most importantly, by the way you treat others, by loving one another as Jesus has loved us. That's the best way to evangelize, to care for those who are hurting, to be kind and to be generous, to be forgiving, to be merciful, to live the gospel. Imagine how we could change our country and the world if all the Catholics in the world were truly living the gospel. Well, it begins with you and with me, with the help and the grace of Christ. And every time we receive the most holy Eucharist, we are nourished by the body and blood of the Lord, this sacrament of his love, in order to carry his love to others. When we have a Eucharistic procession, the priest carries the monstrance, and it's very beautiful. You experience Eucharistic adoration here in a Eucharistic procession. Well, we should have a Eucharistic procession every time we leave Mass. We should be like a monstrance, carrying Jesus with us out into the world. And looking out at you, you give me so much hope. Young disciples and friends of the Lord Jesus, may you have that passionate love of John the Apostle, of Mary Magdalene, of St. Paul. And if you do, you know what's going to happen? You'll become saints. God bless you.